We've been discussing how the hospitality industry at the moment is really struggling to fill thousands of job vacancies. Waiting staff and chefs are particularly in demand. The sector's been hit hard by the pandemic anyway, but now these shortages have really compounded things. According to some estimates, 350,000 workers have left the hospitality industry in the last year. That's more than 10% of the workforce, so very significant. Joining us now, Denis Sheehan is the publisher of Hospitality and Catering News and has launched a petition to Parliament calling for freedom of movement laws to enable the UK hospitality industry to recover. Good evening to you, Denis. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Kate. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your programme.
OK, so explain this very simply for us. Freedom of movement laws. This, in your opinion, will allow the hospitality industry to fill this 10 to 11% of vacancies.
Yeah, I mean, if I maybe give you a sort of set the background, if you like, I'll try and do it as succinctly as I possibly can. But the process of reopening hospitality industry across the UK is now underway. And that follows 15 months of severely restricted or zero trading. So the damage done throughout this period, period of time, has really impacted every hospitality business, causing incredibly significant both human and economic casualties. So now as businesses reopen, because the process has started, and get ready to build and develop trade, the trade, the pandemic has also masked the effect of Brexit in removing a very significant proportion of hospitality's workforce. Hospitality, for all intents and purposes, has laid dormant over the past 15 months. There were no jobs required, or virtually no jobs required, and people and skill shortages have only just arisen as the industry also looks to awake from that dormant period throughout the pandemic. Now, as you know, as referred to already, the scale and scope of the problem is big, and I'll get onto some of the numbers in a moment. But I think just exactly how big will only be fully understood as reopening progresses. Now, if we look at government data from the Office of National Statistics, in the past 12 months, 355,000 non-UK nationals that worked in the hospitality industry have left the UK and are unable to come back as a consequence of Brexit. Now, that equates to 11% of the pre-pandemic workforce and 17% of the current workforce. Now, I think to set this again further in context, these are experienced, skilled people that are needed now, because this is the crux of the matter, I think. When I say now, I mean right now, in the days and weeks ahead, and that will accelerate in months ahead. And quite simply, from the information that I've been having with exchanges from people right across the industry. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I talk to people, I report the news. Hospitality simply cannot reopen fully under the circumstances.
Yeah, we have already spoken to a couple of business owners, both of whom are working on reduced hours because they simply cannot hire the staff to be able to open more than 3 or 4 days a week. So we know it's directly affecting things. There's an argument here, though, isn't there, Denis, that we knew Brexit was going to happen anyway. We knew it would impact on the workforce, and maybe asking some hospitality businesses why that couldn't have been factored in earlier by them. The fact that they were going to lose employees shouldn't have been a fresh news line for them, really. Yeah,
and we certainly wrote considerable volumes about the impact of Brexit well in advance of the pandemic and the likely effect it would have. Now, they've explained the petition is asking government to simply ease immigration restrictions on EU nationals and other migrant workers that specifically have experience of working in the UK hospitality industry. So only people that have previously worked in the industry, to allow them to come back, perhaps temporarily, but certainly immediately. So we're not saying reverse Brexit. That would be a ludicrous request to make. But this could be achieved by creating some sort of new hospitality visa or exempting UK nationals with the relevant experience from some of the current immigration requirements.
So you're, similar to health workers to some extent, some of whom are able to get a special form of visa. You'd like to see something like that for hospitality. There was a lot of discussion about this, about a temporary work permit, and I'm thinking about the conversations that were had around fruit picking time, workers from the EU being able to come over to farms and fruit farms, particularly for picking season. Is that not something that has come into play or could come into play? Is there a temporary temporary work permit available?
I mean, what we're looking for is a debate in Parliament to discuss this, so that MPs can come together and look at this. Because I think as time ticks away, this problem is going to become more and more acute. Now, I know that the government are trying to point towards their Kickstart scheme, encouraging young unemployed people to fill the gaps. But if you look at the track record, in October 2020, Theresa Coffey announced that she was aiming to create 250,000 jobs through the Kickstart scheme, which is a great scheme in theory. But 6 months later, in March this year, less than 5,000 people had actually been placed onto that scheme. And now in May, that number has only grown to 16,500. And again, Kate was on earlier, there's currently 188,000 vacancies in hospitality. And as I say, we're not even fully open yet. So speaking to a lot of people that employ, enormous volumes of people, ranging from, the great big employers to if you like, again, some of the Michelin star chef, the names who ordinarily only have to put their name on a job advert, they are all experiencing exactly the same thing. There are not the people out there for the jobs.
OK, so you think that calling for lesser restrictions on freedom of movement will allow workers from the EU to come over and contribute to the hospitality industry? I think probably the government might fight back and say, well, we need to focus more on why those jobs are not being filled over here rather than just, pumping in talent from abroad. Surely the whole point of Brexit was to start flying the flag and trying to work as a self-sufficient nation more.
Yeah, well again, I'm all for increases in training and schemes like the Kickstart scheme, but the volumes here and the problems and the size and scale of the dilemma is completely out of sync. Now, again, at the moment, we're talking about getting back to reopening to full capacity, but on top of needing the people and the skills resources to reopen, we're looking potentially at a boom in staycations. International holidays are going to be extraordinarily limited this year unless the virus disappears, which is impossible. So that will lead to many millions of people in the UK who would normally holiday abroad looking for holidays in the UK. A huge potential boost to the UK economy. But again, it requires another huge surge in jobs in hospitality in order to facilitate it. And I think, so it's a kind of two-part problem, but without allowing the biggest gap in the recruitment pool to come back to work temporarily under certain restrictions, as I say, with some adjustments, temporary adjustments to the immigration restrictions. We're not looking for a Brexit reversal. That would be ludicrous.
Do you think people are going to go for it, though, Denis? We've got issues here with travel during a pandemic. Do you think people are really going to want to come over, even if they were based over here originally? Do you think that they're going to want to come back to work in the hospitality industry?
I'm not sure. I don't think anybody can speak on behalf of 350,000 people. But again, we would need to open the doors to allow them to come back, to have the chance to speak and gauge the reaction to that offer.
Yeah. Listen, thank you for speaking to us.
No, not at all.
A petition to Parliament calling for freedom of movement laws initiated by Denis Sheehan. He is the publisher of Hospitality and Catering News. Thanks for joining us on Times Radio. Thanks very much, Denis.
Not at all, Kate. Thank you for your time.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Well, this is Kait Borsay on Times Radio with Santander. From addressing your money worries to ways to cut your spending, Santander can help. Find out more at santander.co.uk.